The sound of chainsaws woke me that morning. By sunset, my beautiful maple tree was gone, a $60,000 truck was crushed, and my HOA president learned a $50,000 lesson about property rights the hard way. Life has a funny way of teaching you lessons, and mine came in the shape of a beautiful maple tree and a neighbor who couldn't mind her own business. I'm Mike, and with my wife Sarah and our 2 kids, Emily, 8, and Jack, 6, we thought we'd found our perfect forever home in Pine Creek Estates 3 years ago. The moment we pulled up to the house, that maple tree caught our eye. Standing tall and proud in our front yard, its branches spread wide like welcoming arms. The previous owner, an elderly gentleman named Mr. Thompson, had planted it 50 years ago when his daughter was born. He told us stories about how the tree had grown alongside his family, marking birthdays, graduations, and countless summer afternoons in its cool shade. Our kids fell in love with the tree instantly. Emily declared it would be perfect for a treehouse, while Jack spent hours collecting its helicopter seeds, throwing them up in the air and watching them spin down. Sarah and I couldn't say no to the house. The tree was like a bonus family member, one that had been waiting for us all along. Pine Creek Estates seemed perfect at first. Our neighbors brought welcome cookies, helped us unload moving boxes, and invited us to the annual block party. The neighborhood kids played together after school, riding bikes and having water balloon fights in summer. The HOA kept things neat without being too strict, and life was good. Then Karen Williams became the HOA president. Karen moved into the neighborhood 6 months after us, buying the biggest house on the corner. She was a real estate agent who loved to remind everyone about her million-dollar listings and her eye for property values. At first, she seemed friendly enough, always stopping to chat when walking her perfectly groomed poodle, Caesar. But something changed when she won the HOA president election. It was like giving a small taste of power to someone who'd been hungry for it their whole life. Suddenly, every little thing became a major issue. The Johnsons' wind chimes were too noisy. The Garcias' garden gnomes were tacky. The Petersons' kids' chalk drawings on their own driveway were reducing property values. Our maple tree caught Karen's attention during her first official neighborhood inspection. She stood at the edge of our property, clipboard in hand, frowning up at the branches like they'd personally offended her. "You know," she said, tapping her pen against her clipboard, "large trees can be quite dangerous. And the leaves, they make such a mess in fall." I explained how the tree was healthy, how we'd had it inspected when we bought the house, and how much it meant to our family. Karen smiled that tight smile of hers, the one that didn't reach her eyes, and made a note on her clipboard. "Well," she said, "we'll see about that." Over the next few months, we started finding HOA notices in our mailbox. First, it was about leaves in the yard, we rake weekly. Then about branches hanging over the sidewalk, they were well above head height. Each time, we addressed her concerns, showing proof that we maintained the tree properly. But Karen wasn't satisfied. She started talking to other neighbors, telling them how the tree's roots might damage the sidewalk, how it could fall during a storm, how it was probably attracting squirrels and birds that were nuisances. Some neighbors nodded along, while others rolled their eyes behind her back. The kids noticed the tension. One afternoon, Emily came home crying because Karen had told her the treehouse we were planning wouldn't be allowed. She said it would look ugly and that ugly things aren't allowed in Pine Creek Estates, Emily sobbed. That was the first time I felt real anger towards Karen. Making a child cry crossed a line. Sarah and I tried to keep things peaceful. We invited Karen to see our arborist's report showing the tree's excellent health. We offered to trim any branches that worried her. We even invited her to our weekend barbecue, hoping she'd see how the tree provided the perfect setting for community gatherings. But Karen had made up her mind. At the next HOA meeting, she proposed new regulations about oversized vegetation in front yards. When that failed to pass, she started documenting every leaf that fell from our tree onto her precious lawn. She took photos of bird droppings on her car, claiming our tree was attracting too many birds. What we didn't know then was that Karen's complaints were just the beginning. We had no idea she was building up to something bigger, something that would change our peaceful neighborhood forever. As the seasons changed and summer turned to fall, our maple tree stood strong and beautiful, its leaves turning brilliant shades of red and gold. If only we'd known what Karen was planning, maybe we could have stopped what happened next. But sometimes, the biggest storms come when you least expect them, and our storm was just around the corner. The real trouble started when Karen bought her new truck. It wasn't just any truck, it was a shiny black Ford F-150 Limited, fresh off the dealer's lot. She parked it in her driveway like it was a trophy, washing it twice a week and telling anyone who'd listen about its leather seats and panoramic sunroof. There was just one problem in Karen's mind. Our maple tree partially blocked her view of the street from her driveway. "How am I supposed to back out safely?" she complained one morning, marching up to our front door. "That tree is a hazard to my new vehicle." Sarah tried explaining that the tree had been there for decades and other neighbors managed just fine, but Karen wasn't interested in logic. Within days, mysterious flyers appeared in everyone's mailbox. "Dangerous tree alert," they screamed in bold red letters. The flyers claimed our maple was diseased and could fall at any moment. Karen had even photoshopped pictures of fallen trees from the internet, adding captions like, "Could your house be next?" It was ridiculous, but some neighbors started giving us worried looks. I decided to fight back with facts. We hired another certified arborist, the third one since Karen started complaining, to inspect the tree. The report was clear. Our maple was perfectly healthy, with strong roots and solid branches. We made copies of the report and distributed them to every house in the neighborhood. Karen was furious when she saw us spreading propaganda, as she called it. Then came the weird incidents. Our security camera caught Karen measuring the tree's distance from the sidewalk at 3 a.m. with a flashlight. She started documenting every leaf that fell in her yard, creating a spreadsheet of property damage. One morning, we found her poking at the tree's roots with a garden spade, claiming she was investigating foundation concerns. The breaking point came on a Tuesday morning. I was working from home when I heard the unmistakable sound of chainsaws. Looking out my office window, I saw a truck marked Quick Cut Tree Service parked in front of our house. 3 men in orange vests were approaching our maple, chainsaws in hand, while Karen supervised from her driveway. I ran outside so fast I forgot to put on shoes. "Stop!" I shouted, waving my arms. "What do you think you're doing?" The workers paused, looking confused. One of them pulled out a work order. "Ma'am here says she's the HOA president and this tree needs to come down immediately. Says it's an emergency situation." Karen strutted over, waving a stack of papers. "I've documented everything," she declared smugly. "This tree is a clear violation of HOA guidelines. As president, I have the authority to remove hazards." I grabbed my phone and called the police, but before they could arrive, the workers had already made their first cut into our maple's trunk. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. The workers had cut at the wrong angle, and the tree was starting to lean. Everyone heard the cracking sound, like a giant wooden bone breaking. "Move!" I screamed as the massive trunk began to tilt. Karen stood frozen, watching in horror as our beautiful maple tree crashed down, right onto her precious new truck. The sound was incredible, a mixture of splintering wood, crunching metal, and Karen's high-pitched scream. Her brand-new F-150 was crushed like a soda can, its panoramic sunroof shattered, the hood crumpled under the weight of our 50-year-old maple. In the silence that followed, you could hear the last few leaves fluttering down onto the wreckage. The police arrived to find Karen having a full meltdown. She was alternating between screaming about her truck and threatening to sue everyone in sight, me, the tree service company, even the confused police officers trying to take statements. The workers admitted they had no proper permits and had relied solely on Karen's word that she had authority to remove the tree. As neighbors gathered to watch the spectacle, someone whispered, "Karma." Karen overheard and spun around, her face red with rage. "This is all your fault," she shrieked, pointing at me. "If you had removed this dangerous tree when I first complained, none of this would have happened." Little did Karen know, our security cameras had captured everything. Every moment of her trespassing, the unauthorized tree cutting, and the spectacular karma that followed. As the police finished taking statements and the tow truck arrived to haul away the remains of her prized F-150, Karen declared war. "You'll be hearing from my lawyers," she spat, stomping back to her house in her designer heels. The maple tree, our beautiful shade-giving, memory-holding maple, lay across our front yard like a fallen giant. Our kids watched from the window, tears in their eyes. But as Sarah hugged them close, she whispered something that would prove prophetic. Sometimes, when people do bad things, they end up getting exactly what they deserve. We had no idea then just how right she would be. They say karma works in mysterious ways, but in Karen's case, it worked through the legal system. The day after our maple tree crushed her truck, we received a thick envelope from her lawyer. Karen was suing us for $75,000, the cost of her truck, plus emotional distress and loss of property value due to her damaged driveway. What Karen didn't expect was that we were more than ready for her. While she'd been busy taking photos of fallen leaves, we'd been documenting everything. Our security cameras had caught her countless trespassing incidents. We had copies of every fake flyer she distributed. Most importantly, we had clear footage of her ordering those workers to cut down our tree without permission. Our lawyer, a calm woman named Linda Martinez, smiled when she saw our evidence. This isn't just about defending against her lawsuit, she explained. Karen committed criminal trespassing and destruction of property. That maple tree was worth $50,000, and she had no right to touch it. The first court hearing was like watching a house of cards collapse. Karen arrived wearing designer clothes and a confident smirk, probably thinking her expensive lawyer would easily win against us, common folk. But as soon as our security footage started playing on the courtroom screen, her smirk disappeared. The judge, an older gentleman with kind eyes and no patience for nonsense, watched the videos carefully. His face darkened as he saw Karen directing the workers to cut down our tree. When Karen's lawyer tried claiming she had HOA authority, things got even better. You see, we'd contacted the HOA board members. Not only did they confirm Karen had no authority to remove trees from private property, but they were fed up with her behavior too. 5 board members testified about how Karen had abused her position, changed meeting minutes, and harassed residents over minor issues. Then came the arborist testimonies. 3 different experts confirmed our maple had been healthy and valued at $50,000 due to its age, size, and species. Karen's face turned redder with each expert, especially when they explained how her unauthorized cutting had caused the tree to fall exactly the way it did. The turning point came when Karen took the stand. Under questioning, she cracked. "Fine," she snapped. "I cut down their stupid tree. It was ugly, it blocked my view, and it dropped leaves on my property. I'm the HOA president. I decide what's best for this neighborhood." The judge raised his eyebrows so high they nearly disappeared into his hairline. The verdict was better than we could have hoped for. Not only did the judge dismiss Karen's lawsuit, but he ordered her to pay us $50,000 for the tree, plus another $25,000 for malicious destruction of property and harassment. She also had to cover all our legal fees. But karma wasn't finished with Karen yet. When news of the verdict spread through Pine Creek Estates, the HOA board called an emergency meeting. In front of the entire neighborhood, they voted unanimously to remove Karen as president. Someone even brought printouts of the HOA bylaws, showing how Karen had violated at least 12 rules herself. The best part? The HOA used Karen's story to make positive changes. They created new rules protecting mature trees and requiring multiple board members to approve any property violations. Our neighbors, feeling guilty for believing Karen's lies, started a community garden project. Even Mr. Thompson, the original owner who planted our maple, came to visit and helped us plant a new tree. Karen couldn't handle the shame. Within a month, her house was on the market. She tried attending one last HOA meeting to complain about property values, but nobody would even look at her. The day she moved out, neighbors gathered in their driveways, silently watching her U-Haul pull away. Someone's kid started humming, "Nana hey hey goodbye," and soon the whole street was singing. Today, a young maple tree grows where our old one stood. It's not as tall or majestic yet, but it will be someday. We hung a small plaque beside it that reads, "Standing strong against storms, both natural and human-made." The kids helped plant wildflowers around its base, and sometimes I catch Sarah sitting under it, sketching or reading. As for Karen, we heard she moved to a condo in Florida. No trees allowed. Sometimes new neighbors ask about the plaque by our young maple, and we tell them this story. It's become a neighborhood legend, a reminder that justice might take time, but it grows strong roots, just like our tree. The best lesson from all this? Sometimes life's biggest victories come from standing your ground, even when bullies with clipboards and expensive trucks try to cut you down. Our maple might be gone, but its spirit lives on in the way our community came together, proving that good neighbors and good trees are worth fighting for. And every autumn, when the leaves on our young maple turn golden, we smile, knowing that somewhere in Florida, Karen probably still checks her car for falling leaves, jumping at the sound of every acorn that drops.